So my name is Artem, I'm working at Sys11, and we had a talk previously already on the OpenAPIs. The point here is that the new CLI and also TUI are generated completely out of OpenAPIs for OpenStack services. This is done in Rust, not for Python. Conceptually, so I'm trying to create a new CLI that is following the same the same style of the current Python OpenStack client, so that at least users are not really in front of something completely new that works absolutely unclear how. But the point is literally this is auto-generated, so that as a maintainer I have much more time focusing really on adding features like improving authentication, improving caching and stuff like that, instead of taking care of, okay, Nova added one new column, so I need to actually modify the code so to add support. But I will be going through here through some, at least theory, how it is built. We will take a look at some authentication, some interesting features, authentication caching, and TUI, last but not least. So why the new CLI on its own? OpenStack client is slow and inconsistent. It's not a surprise for anyone, and the hardest thing it requires, for me personally, in my eyes, it requires way too much effort from the maintainers on really just keeping it alive, and monkey typing from the point of view of a new field is being added in Nova. We need to go and create a change request to add support into SDK. We need to go then and do the same work, just in a little bit different style for the CLI, and then for Gopher Cloud we would need to repeat the same for every other SDK. We would need to repeat this. So it's, in my eyes, literally just monkey typing, which machines are better than humans. I was definitely looking and investing quite a lot of time, literally I think like 3-4 years, investing into thinking whether OpenStack client at the moment, as it is right now, can be improved. No. This is my statement as a maintainer of OpenStack client, as a PTL of SDK and CLI team. In my eyes, this is just doomed. We cannot make it better. We can make certain aspects of it better, but definitely we cannot change it dramatically, because you as users are exactly the ones who are saying, you broke me again. So instead I said, let me start from scratch. Implement new concepts, see how CLIs or actually interaction with the user, what are expectations right now from the current users, what are others doing to make it better. So literally just take fresh approach on how to do this. From the how to do it better, one of the things, the most important things in my eyes, is use a compiled language, because Python is simply terribly slow and we can't do anything about that. We have tried literally so many different approaches, nothing worked. You can get some certain performance improvement with every new Python release. You get a performance improvement, but it's still far away from being acceptable. And then, of course, you want to have CLI just to be able to run it somewhere in a container. Why the hell do you need the full Python stack to pull it with you? It's simply not reasonable. The approach, how I also said, that you generate clients out of OpenAPI. So we have already, we do a work to generate some machine-readable documentation contracts about it from the API's point of view. So why do we need to do the work again? Instead, we just let it generate. Pretty much with OpenAPIs, you will find generators for CLI for pretty much every language. It's just that OpenStack APIs are so complex that none of them is literally working. So I tried also here to do it a little bit differently and try to create OpenAPIs that are capable of covering all the OpenStack specifics, and on the other side, create generators that can consume those special OpenAPI specs and generate CLI. Well, actually, I started only for working on the SDK's point of view, but then I immediately figured out, okay, it makes sense just continue working with the CLI. And then the next day I was sitting and, but it can be also done for TUI as well, so we can introduce TUI for OpenStack as well. Quite empty slide, just a link to documentation from that point of view. The documentation is there. When you get to the repository, it's not just the documentation that you see in the README, it's also rendered. Installation, we just start really from scratch. It's as easy, on the GitHub binaries are being published for major platforms, for Mac, for Linux, for ARM, for AMD, also for Windows. I'm trying to actually cover the whole palette of what users are really demanding. But technically speaking, okay, maybe also one step back on that. At the moment, Rust is not accepted as official programming language accepted in OpenStack. Why should it stop me? Why should it stop anyone? The whole Kubernetes lives on GitHub, so, well, it's just the formality. Don't think that since it is not hosted on OpenDev, it's not official project. I'm official PTL, and it's just like that. So don't be frightened with that spec. I'm also building container, really just with a binary inside, I think still with a shell, because it doesn't make sense to build a container for CLI without shell. Well, you can of course do it differently. And you can build it locally, but you need to have the Rust compiler stack, which is not easy one, and maybe it will take a bit of time to compile it properly because of the code base, which is huge right now. So I'm the single maintainer of the project, of the auto-generated project, with something like 700,000 lines of code, which is basically pretty much everything is auto-generated. My rough statement regarding the CLI is that it's like 95% of the code is automatically generated, remaining 5% are the gluing, taking care of authentication, taking care about some certain different aspects. But you can understand really roughly that I have much more time focusing on important things rather than just taking care of that. Let's have a look on the command syntax, maybe just a couple of few dry slides, and then we can look in reality if internet is still there. OSC, it's just an abbreviation that sticked to OpenStack client since quite a long time, and I was just thinking, okay, then just let's take OSC as the command. There is of course a name collision with OpenBuild. There is OBS project from OpenSUSE for building packages, and they have also some client tool called OSC, but yeah, anyway, you know there is some sort of collision, but technically OpenStack OSC, OSC OpenStack is the same thing. And then we have a difference, first difference between between the old OpenStack client and the new one, that service name is always prefix, or basically part of the command, like OSC user create, OSC not the user but identity user create, OSC compute server create. The problem is that we had so many collisions in certain use cases, like group. Which group are we talking about? Are we talking about user group? Are we talking about server group? Are we talking about compute backup? Are we talking about Cinder backup? Are we talking about some other sort of backup? And therefore I just said, okay, we are generating things from the code, so we are enforcing consistency, and this is the moment where we are enforcing consistency. I admit, fighting the muscle memory is very hard, is incredibly hard. I recently bought for myself a split keyboard with columnar layout, and fighting the muscle memory is incredibly hard. But it's worth of that. It's worth of that invest, because you have consistency and it just helps you. multi-words or multi-word resources are always separated with dash, like application credential security group. That is something that was also multiple times attempted in the Python OpenStack client, but it's actually never worked out because user would be broken. All of a sudden it works differently. But this is exactly the time where we are enforcing consistency. And then also one of the biggest problems that we were having regarding the ID or name. This was always a problem for everyone and was so many confusions. I talk about that maybe a little bit later, but technically speaking also, when certain commands requires like references to other resources, and explicitly I'm talking about user, project, or actually the same is also for the main. So when for certain command you need a user ID, as CLI offers you basically a switch. You can pass, just use the current user, whatever that is, or I'm passing user ID, or I'm passing username, but as a caller, as an invoker, I'm always explicit what I'm passing into the CLI, so that CLI doesn't need to do this extra call of trying to resolve it, hoping that this looks like ID, so maybe this is ID, but in reality it doesn't ID, so it doesn't work. That is the difference. That is, again, also difference out of bad experiences in the current style. Authentication. Just few words on that. So this is very similar to OpenStack token issue, but is structured just a little bit differently. So it's OSC auth show. I'm also here was trying to follow a couple of different CLIs. So technically, when I started that, I just took the full variety of existing CLIs, like CLI for AWS, for Azure, for GitHub, for GitLab, and was just trying to suck the best out of them. And this is like a quintessence of what I have found. So auth show just prints you out information about your current authentication, and there is also support for login. If you just want to get login, and explicitly to suck it into the environment variable just to pass it by for next invocation, for whatever reason. Just OSC auth login prints your current token into std out and all the normal ways. OSC auth login renew is, like the name says, just renew the current token, whether it's necessary or not. Let's try it out. So OSC, let's start it like that. It doesn't make sense to make it bigger, the font, because it's already too much information. If when you invoke OSC, it offers you all the commands, and basically it's always tries to navigate you to the level below. And all of the descriptions are, as I said, generated out of OpenAPI. So whenever there is a change in the OpenAPI, the information here would be changed as well. But this is just like a really rough feeling. We have a variety of connection options. There is a dedicated slide on that, so I'm not going to talk about that right now. Then there are certain output formatting options. But anyway, we just wanted to talk about authentication. So if we do OSC auth show, oops, we have forgotten to specify the cloud, and I know that, I don't remember who exactly, but I think Infomaniac implemented some sort of fuzzy search for a plugin for OpenStack client for the Python ones, but I had it already also here as well. So it's technically, we are just selecting which cloud we are willing to talk to. Fuzzy searching, real fuzzy searching from your current configuration. We have selected the cloud, and the cloud takes a lot to respond. But anyway, this is our authentication that is printed out. I'm not going to do auth login because it prints my token, and we are talking with the real cloud right now. But anyway, that's sort of essence. And of course, we can explicitly request the cloud, which is going to do the same. Not the same. Internet timeout. Well, internet is bad in France. Let's then hope that it would still work, and at the moment look to extended authentication methods, basically what I was willing to describe. So when we are not specifying the cloud that we are willing to connect, when the environment variable OS cloud is set, then we are connecting to that one. Otherwise, the fuzzy search prompt, we can specify explicitly the OS cloud. We can also specify OS cloud and project name if we want just a different scope of the token. And in that case, basically, we are establishing connection as it is, right? As it is, and then just rescoping the token. Then there is a support for also like bit different, but still very similar to the Python OpenStack client OS client config file, where you are just specifying where your cloud YAML file is located. And then the next thing is literally very differently from the Python OpenStack client. Take environment variables. The difference here is that currently Python OpenStack client is trying to merge environment variables and your cloud YAML, and you can't even imagine how many bug reports we are having just because no one can really understand how this works. And on practice, it just always works a little bit differently. So what you get is not what you want. Therefore, here it is differently, either environment variables or config file, not both. And that is something that I'm strongly staying for. This will never change. Next thing that I have added, which is quite interesting, authentication helper. But to say a couple of words in front of that, when in your configuration, when in your configuration option is missing, imagine the password is missing, you would be prompted for to enter the password. It's similar to how Python OpenStack client is doing. It just still a little bit differently, and it's consistent across CLI and TUI. And I put it one step further and actually implemented all of that through authentication helper that gives you a possibility to actually fetch the secret or fetch missing data from somewhere else, whatever that is. You can want to have integration with Hashi Vault. You maybe want to read the password from Bitwarden, from whatever. So this is exactly your method. The interface is still like maybe can be improved, but technically speaking, so you always have possibility to specify the command that would be invoked when a certain attribute is missing, and the command is basically just taking a first argument is exactly the name of the attribute that is required. So the password is missing, in that particular code, vault_read.sh would be invoked with a parameter password, and it is supposed to return the password. The next thing is something that I have just recently added, and in my eyes is a really awesome thing. Possibility to do a virtual merging of multiple clouds, YAML, secure YAML, wherever they are located, into single tree, so that you can split your cloud YAML files into logical pieces. Because typically, since I'm like the maintainer of CLIs, I used to have cloud YAML that is like incredibly long. And this way I can structure them properly by having one file only with corporate accounts, one file with only like community-based accesses, one account with private accesses, whatever. And you just specify it in environment variable, please take that one, and that one, and that one, merge all of them so that you structure them into smaller pieces, but OpenStack client and the TUI are able to find them, merge them, and everything great. And of course, last but not least, all the fancy authentication methods are also implemented. This is like something that in the Python OpenStack client is really incredibly complicated, but for example, there is a WebSSO-based login, which is a bit sucks, but still is there. And a couple of words into tomorrow I'm having a talk on re-implementing Keystone, also with Rust, where I'm explicitly experimenting with new authentication methods or improving federation, how actually the federation works, which forced me into rethinking generally what's the thing about authentication. And since OSC is generated out of OpenAPI specs, well, I just have nothing to do, it's already there. Few words about output format. Just normal out show or catalog list or server list or whatever list. Dash or JSON would output it in JSON form. Dash or JSON dash dash pretty will prettify the output. Of course, you can pipe it into JQ and do whatever you want there. You can even apply like additional query parameters if you are not able to get access to a certain field or whatever you want. One difference to Python OpenStack client, there is no support for YAML, and my take on that, you have JQ, why do you need YAML? You can always use JQ to convert it to YAML, so no need to actually add something that can be done differently. It's like following here a bit of more Unix approach, do one thing but do it good. So it's more into that direction. Then dash O wide, maybe some of you know dash dash long in the OpenStack client, so this is more or less similar to that, with the difference that it just prints you out everything else. So on OpenStack client we still have the fixed lists of columns that we are returning. Here it is either short one or the full one. Dash F column name, just like that. And then there are a couple of different options on different table arrangements, because it is still a table. And I was talking to many people asking for their input, how do you want to output the table? Like OpenStack client doing it right now, or maybe like some other tool is doing, because when you have a short terminal and the line is simply broken, the content is simply not readable. That's why I was experimenting. I actually implemented that first. I'm just using the full width and I'm making the columns smaller. That was also having disadvantages. So therefore, there are flags how to influence that, how exactly you want it to be returned on the screen. Then there is one also very useful thing, like a curl mode, where you are able to send authenticated requests directly to the cloud in the case certain command is not covered yet. Just without fetching a token and doing all of this madness, you just, so the command is roughly OSC API, then you put service name, identity, compute, whatever, URL, which is either absolute or relative, also depends on service catalog, depends on clouds, something that you can't predict really. Method, header, body, okay, I forgot to list here body, but this is pretty much exactly the same. So you can see how to call listing of all projects in this sort of curl mode. I'm using this really very often for those corner cases where I still have not implemented binding properly for whichever reason, but we just want to get the output. Authentication caching. In OpenStack, in Python OpenStack client, it is not by default. Here it is by default enabled. And it is stored on the file system. I admit this is some tricky points here. So technically speaking, I'm having multiple cache or authentication cache files. You can do ls.auth. Let's execute it if I'm able to. So it's a couple of files. What they are? Technically, we have different authentication. So with all of our connections, we have identity auth-n information and we have auth-z scope information. When you have a single auth-n and just multiple scopes, it doesn't make sense to actually treat them separately I'm putting them, so basically file name is sort of auth_n, and inside you will have a table or a hash map of auth token, or actually not token, but that's the full authentication response. And this leads to the fact that when your token for a certain scope expires, but you have a valid token for different scope, instead of re-authentication, you would be basically simply rescoping the other token that is still valid. The advantage here may, or actually it may sound really questionable, why do you need that? But when you are having MFA or federation or stuff like that, it just, why do I need again to enter this MFA code? And this way, if we have still a valid authentication, we will not even try into that, go into that complex mode, and just like that. Those files are technically binaries, but you can still extract quite a lot of useful information out of that. I'm at the moment not doing any encryption of that. I plan to add keyring support to actually move all of that into keyring. It's just the big question. If you anyway have already your password in the plain text in your cloud YAML or in your secure YAML, what is the sense of actually trying to do something else here? But it is on the roadmap. We have a status-based output coloring. Let me hope that it will still work. Volume list. Yeah, maybe volume list. I'm so sorry. It's Wi-Fi doesn't work, hotspot doesn't really work reliably, but anyway, you see here different colors for like greenish color. It's hard also to recognize it from the sun. But anyway, for those resources that have a status column, or the status property, output in both CLI and TUI would address that and use a different color, so that visually you spot like VM is shut down, or the volume is available and not connected, and stuff like that. So visually just coloring of the output. No, nothing that weird. But this is also the moment where maybe you can spot here at the bottom hints. This is also something new. I have just added possibility for every single command to add useful hints. You can have set of global hints, and you can have a command-specific hints. Those are randomized in the sense of what you get is, well, who knows what you will get, but at least they definitely relate to this command. Okay, now we are coming to the next interesting point of output customization. Technically, in Python OpenStack client, you have no way of actually specifying how exactly you want the output to be permanently retrieved. You just need to execute to call your command with really specifying. I only need that column. I only need that command. Here, everything is done completely differently. For every resource, you have possibility to, in the config file to specify exactly which columns do you want to have by default. You can, so technically, when listing servers, by default, those columns would be returned. So without -o white, only those columns would be returned. You can specify -o white and everything what is there would be returned, but you imagine for server list it's just a table like that. And here we are coming also to the next thing, that for every column you are able to specify what would be the width, what desired width. It also depends. It may be width, it may be max width, it may be whatever else. Maybe eventually at certain point in time, like different font, bold, not bold, but this is absolutely useless. Anyway, you get the point. So you have a customization here with regard to what is your desired expectation would be. By the way, that the list of default fields is exactly the order in which you will get them. So if you want just different order, specify them differently. And this gives you, by the way, possibility also to do like customization for your CSP, and you want your customers to be having sort of different output branding, let's name it like that, branding, or you are not supporting a certain field and a certain resource, so you can just distribute the configuration that simply hides this out by default, because everyone else is having this by default. In your cloud it is not, or vice versa, you want to add something, you get the point. And we also have possibility to actually specify the JSON pointer. You know that some of the things are more complex than simply that, and instead of really dumping out the full JSON, you can just specify JSON pointer, and on the that specific part would be shown to the user. So, like a much better output. Let me see if we can do. I need to do it. Compute flavor list. Fighting the muscle memory works also in the reverse direction, that you can't type on here anymore. Looks ugly, I know, but well, those are defaults, and if you specify that by default the width would be 38 characters, well, this would be 38 characters. When you are using IDs, that's exactly the place that on your cloud it is different, so you have the freedom to do it differently. And of course, those command hints already mentioned, in the same config file, you can specify you yourself are able to customize which hints you would be showing to. It mostly makes sense only for the CSPs to make it useful. But anyway, I'm at the moment trying to come up with useful default configuration. If you have some suggestions on that, which hints could be useful in that command, or what you think should be by default returned, or which columns should be returned by default, or which does not make sense at all in practice, I'm really very open for suggestions. Yeah, like that. TUI. We are done with the OSC, and now TUI. I think maybe it's more interesting, even at least for me it was. From the installation point of view, it is pretty much absolutely the same. It is working also from the invocation, very similar, just OS TUI. I was also struggling to find the name here, but just said okay, OS as a prefix, we just name it TUI. You can set explicitly the cloud to which you want to connect from the beginning, or you would be prompted which cloud you want to connect to. Generated also using the OpenAPIs, and here what those numbers mean, that everything what's related to the API communication is generated to 100%. Everything else from the UX point of view is at the moment nearly not generated at all, is basically manual work. So there is like a split, maybe 50% of TUI is now automatically generated, 50% is still manual work. I'm still finding the way how to actually generate that, but the problem is that UX things are harder to generate because there are so many variations, still searching for the ways. Anyway, next, automatically refreshes the token, provides also support for authentication helper, which means also your shell command, whatever executable would be called if you need some parameter. Mostly read operations, and I just recently started at least experimenting with adding support for editing operation. The most important thing is actually at the very top. It is inspired by K9S, and it feels like K9S, sorry, switching to German. So if you know it, it will be really very similar, but configurable and for OpenStack, focused for OpenStack and not Kubernetes. Now we can try demo if the connection still works. So I just wrote for myself switching connections, change scope, whatever. OS TUI. starts immediately, and we are prompted from the very beginning to select the connection because I haven't specified one. Plurafolks, thanks still for giving me access. I'm using basically all of the possible accesses to different clouds just to verify that tools are working for real clouds. And I'm still willing to connect to DevStack admin. Hoping, no, it doesn't work. But anyway, at least what we see right now is the pop-up with the error information. Operation timeout. Let's try it again. Now it worked. Wow. And now what we see is not fully implemented. This was still like a really rough idea. Dashboard with your quotas, with your usage. So it's by far not everything. It was just to test the concept. Does it work or not? I find it really quite good. Just need to extend for other cases. You see also here, so the interface looks exactly like K9S. You will definitely recognize lots of things here. On the left side is basically what is our current connection, and then hints, shortcuts regarding to what you can do. So all the shortcuts are definitely configurable, so it's still like, let's say, prototype, whatever. Okay, on the macOS, F2 is not simply F2, but you can always switch the cloud to which you connect from inside. And also what you have possibility would be to actually switch to different projects. And what is being done here, for your current authentication, list of accessible projects is being retrieved. Not that you have here a drop down of all existing projects, but only those that are accessible to you. We want to switch our scope, and yeah, so we have changed now the scope without really exiting or reconnecting or whatever. And now the different things. So you see here again column like a VI. So it's K9S. It's still VI. But again configurable. I find myself really like switching from one tool to another, and when it still supports the VI shortcuts, it's so nice. You never recognize what's different. Anyway, this looks differently compared to K9S, but here we have a list of all resources that we are able to query from the cloud. And of course, you can do typing. This is like big fuzzy-based search. There are like, for example, security groups. It all depends on how you configure that in your config file or in your configuration file, because you can name them like you want. And also SG, secure group rule, whatever shortcuts you want are able, can be implemented. So let's switch to security groups and wait a little bit for internet to wake up. Okay, another thing, you can spot at the bottom of the message, please consider reporting the issue, press R. Press R. Yeah. But see the URL on top. Tomorrow's presentation would be not better, I assume. Anyway, you get the point. So you would be offered to open automatically issue in the repository, and there would be automatically information about scope. Still.
What network do you use actually?
Currently hotspot, because Wi-Fi is not accessible here at all.
I have a guest Wi-Fi connected to the university, and it works absolutely perfectly. 100 megabit.
That being useful to know.
No hotspot. University, there is a guest.
Yeah, but we were told to use different network.
Okay.
Good. Okay, maybe I can try it for tomorrow as well.
You have to register by your email and you will get the
Yeah, but I was expecting that this is exactly for the Open Infra Summit network.
Don't use Open Infra, use the university.
Okay. Good. Maybe if you still have time, we can continue talking about that and even trying things in reality. By the way, the same thing is also accessible in the CLI. It's not exactly in this way. Depending on the type of error, there would be also sort of dump file generated, and we see here in the comment, well, it actually says to you, the dump file has been generated, so if you wish, if you are open, consider pasting it, because the sort of errors that I'm trying to capture with that are deserialization errors, because Rust is strongly typed language, string into non-string cannot be converted, and you are having serialization problems, so I try to pack additional information. So if you are absolutely having no issues, just consider uploading the file. You can have a look into that file. If you see anything sensible there, you can get rid of that. Whatever. It just, I'm trying to get as much information as possible, and also, well, engaging on making it for the user easy to actually report the issue, instead of thinking, okay, where do I need to report and how do I report, which information do I provide. What happens here? Oh, work. Great. Now let's try one interesting thing here. So you see here there is also, right now, output is a little bit different compared to K9S. Because on the right we have a right pane with a full describe. But if we do increase the font, the pane disappears. So I'm trying to do like really adaptable interface with hiding or showing as much as possible. But again, if we do it increase one more time, don't ask me why, but the Command Plus also doesn't work. Yeah, I'm cursed. Okay. So press Y, like YAML, at least that is what K9S is using, and you see really full information how I received it from the cloud. It's not that how I deserialized it, it's literally basically just full JSON, simply converted to YAML for the sake of humanity. Now what we have here also, which is definitely not implemented everywhere, but we have a like resource-based or connected resource-based navigation. You can see here like a diagram enter. So if we press enter on this security group, we land on security group rules when the network works. The network doesn't work, but we can still retry. Now they are there. Yeah. So basically, you see that there is like in K9S also context-based navigation. So what we see here are security group rules, and now you see here, for example, for security group rules, we can delete security group rule directly from here, or we can create. Create is exactly the case that I just recently started exploring, and this is something that may be changed in the future. Technically, you know, K9S doesn't give you a possibility to create resources. And it's absolutely logical, because how come the user is supposed to type in so much information? How are you supposed, from the TUI point of view, to create interface for every single resource? Those are damn complex. So what I have came up with is actually similar to how K9S offers you to edit resources. So pressing Ctrl C, shit, it was wrong shortcut. Ctrl C is exit. Now we need again to reconnect. Please. Has got here. Okay, now we have unfortunately all security group rules independent from the security group rule from which to navigate. So I need to press Ctrl N. And I'm ending in my default editor, whether it's VI, Nano, whatever, with this is at the moment template, but this is my vision how I think it makes sense. So technically, I have full access to the OpenAPI schema with the descriptions. and I simply try to pre-render the information. Okay, it was a bad example because right now, since I'm not in the context of security group, I need to enter security group ID. Let's try it differently. So we quit and we are not sure, so we do it differently. Control N. Now security group ID is populated. It's a hard thing from the TUI point of view to get this, but I still have a vision how this can be done, or exactly this sort of stuff. So we see that comments are pre-populated, which is incredibly important for the user. Otherwise, what do I enter here? So let's just try to do the following, and again, muscle memory and the keyboard, the German keyboard on the Mac is insane. I don't know who invented that. So protocol would be TCP. Other type would be yeah. And here you need to be careful with casing. No, of course not with V6. Are we right here? We don't have IPv6 properly everywhere. Direction, and it will be ingress. So we think like everything's right. Escape, save, exit. Are you sure? What I can think of really to show again the summary, so that would be, at least from my point of view, how I am going the request to be sent. Okay, we are sure at the moment just not sending anything. So request is being sent, and we wait, and the resource appears here. You understand that in real life with real internet connection, it would be basically blazing fast. The point was exactly to show how fast it is. Unfortunately, it doesn't work this way. But anyway, yeah. Now we know. I was thinking, okay, for the demo, so I can after the ending the talk, also delete the security group rule that I needed to access this dev stack. But I'm showing on the example of different security groups, so it doesn't matter. So deletion works exactly pretty much like that. Yeah, that's it, I would say, regarding the live showing. We can, if you have time, of course, continue talking as long as you want. Pressing cancel here again, that doesn't work, so let me go to slide and see what do we have here. Okay. Configurability is pretty much exactly the same style. So you have a config file where you are able to configure. So modes first. What is mode? Mode is exactly the view that you are seeing right now. It's compute.servers, it's compute.flavors, user identity.users, whatever. So it's just more or less what is in front of you. And in every mode, on every pane, you have a set of shortcuts that are accessible exactly when you are on the backups, on the list of backups. What are the actions that you can do? It's basically at the moment just a shortcut out of all possibilities, just to have enough space on the screen. So it's definitely a reduced one. So you see then basically pressing Y would invoke an action, which is action is then what we are willing to do inside of TUI. In that particular case, describe API response. But in that particular case, it may be we want to set filters for our query, like you want to see public images, you want to see private images, you want to see shared images, you want to see all flavors or not flavors, and so on and so on. So basically, all the capabilities of API-based filtering are here. Sorting at the moment is not implemented at all in the sense of where to do sorting on the server side or on the client side, how to request properly. So this is at the moment not implemented yet, requires work. But yeah, anyway, description filters, so pretty much, as I said, for every command you have possibility to configure which shortcuts are available to you. Then we have view configuration, like global key bindings, like what is the shortcut that we want to use for switching our cloud, for switching projects, and stuff like that, refresh, whatever. Not really very interesting. And then we are coming to view, again, specifying which fields do we want to actually get by default from our resource, pretty much exactly the same way like in K9S, and exactly the same way as for OSC. You are also here able to specify the JSON pointer if you have a complex structure and you are just interested in a single field out of that complex JSON. Theming would be also possible. Certain point in time K9S provides that, so why not? But this is not the priority. Last but not least, roadmap. I still plan to add support for keyring and actually provide as much integration into all of the OS-specific implementations, however you call that. It just requires quite a lot of time, and for every operating system, like for Mac is one insanity, for Linux it's a different insanity, so it's on the roadmap. I was having actually also a concept of introducing contexts. It's late evening, yeah. Similar to how Kubernetes and Docker are actually using that. So like you always have your connection, but you have Docker context, you have Kubernetes context. So technically speaking, in the world of OpenStack, we have some connection information, like what is our house URL, which is basically not changing. So it's like our server with which we are talking. Then we have authentication information. This is our username password that we use to connect. And then we have, so it's also kind of like mapped to the Kubernetes concept of users. If you look into Kubernetes config, you will see there is a section on server with which so the API endpoint we are talking to. You have the user that is basically used for authentication, and it's mapped into the context. So I was just experiment, or at least thinking of this may be a good idea at certain points in time to also implement something like that, and finally split out, because our cloud's YAML at the moment. So what we all need to do, you have a single connection, single user account, but you have like 10 projects that you are using, and you need to basically repeat the information 10 times. Yeah, you can use YAML anchors, but it still sucks. So I'm just thinking that eventually this way we could improve the work. Next, more resource relations, like from security group rule, from security group you end up in security group rule. From the network you end up in subnets. From subnet you end up in ports. From load balancer you end up in listeners. So there are already quite a lot of relations, but in OpenStack there are so many relations that it's actually hard to keep everything in mind. So just continuing improving that, and of course.